my name is Molly, and today I'm going to be talking about the EF Gap Year program because I actually got a request from someone to do this video, and I've gotten lots of questions on Instagram from people DMing me, asking me about my experience and advice I would give. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today, and I'll answer all those questions from Instagram. And so if you're interested in this program, or if you know anybody else who's interested in this, then send them this video and keep watching. And yeah, let's just get started because there's a lot to talk about. Okay, quickly, if you don't know what a gap year is, then it's basically it's a year that a person can take off before school or during school or after school. I mean college, not high school. Yeah, it's just taking a year off and traveling or working or doing an internship. And I chose to do EF Gap Year, or my gap year. Okay, now I'll explain how it works. So it starts in September and it ends in April, but there is a month break in January. But you choose 3 different countries to do 3 different modules, which are language, service learning, and internship. And this is a list of countries you can choose from for language. And out of all of these, I chose to go to Tokyo to learn Japanese. And here's a list of countries you can choose from to do service learning in, and I chose to go to Tanzania. And here's a list of countries you can choose from to go to your internship, and I chose to go to Bangkok, Thailand. Each place for each module is 6 weeks, and they're all very different, so I'll explain that in a second. Okay, now I'll talk about the language module. So for me, I chose to go to Japan. And I chose to go to Japan because I just wanted a really different experience from anything else I'd ever had in my life. And I definitely got that because Japan is so different and there's always something to do, and I just love it so much. But let me talk about what to expect from language. So you'll stay with a host family and you get a roommate from another country or another state, and you have to take either a train or a bus or something to your school, which for me was about a 30-minute train ride from my host family's house to the school. And at school, you'll be with all the people from EF Gap Year in your classes. At least for Japan, it was like that because we were all at the same level of Japanese. We had never taken it before. So we were in the same classes together, and the teachers were very nice, and they did speak in English in the beginning, and then they started talking more in Japanese to just help us learn the language better. Something I regret from language is not trying as hard as I should have in class or even going to class, because sometimes I skipped classes to do fun things with my friends or by myself. But if you go to the country to learn the language, then go to class. It will help you a lot, and it's just so important. Also, my host family did speak English, but I know some people did not speak English, so yeah, I'm not sure. If they had spoken Japanese, I feel like it would have challenged me more to learn the language because I would be forced to speak it with them. But luckily, they did speak English. Also, the host family will cook all your meals for you unless you tell them you don't need them to because you're going out to eat with your friends or by yourself or whatever. You have to just communicate with them and tell them what you want and need. And then they'll also tell you like the rules of their house and what they expect from you, I guess. My host family was very flexible, and the host mom was like, you can go out and you can come back whenever you want, just make sure you lock the door. And she gave me a key and instructions on how to use different things. Just from my experience, the house was very small. I think that's just how it is in Japan, and the bed that I got was like a flat, what's it called? Just like a flat mattress on the ground. And the shower was very different because you had to stand in like, I don't even know what it is. The shower was not in a bathtub. Don't know how to explain it, but the shower is very different. What else was really different? Yeah, taking the train from the house to school was really hard for me at first, and I got lost a lot because I just am not good at navigating. But I figured it out, and I got used to taking the train 30 minutes. It became part of a routine. The school will plan activities for you to do if you want to go with them, but you can also plan activities by yourself because there's so much free time to do whatever you want. There's no one telling you not to do something. I got to do so many different things. I went to Kyoto for a weekend. I did karaoke. I went to a lot of animal cafes. I went to some concerts. there's just so much to do. There's always someone you can talk to. There's the EF staff there's the school staff, there's your host family, your friends from school, other EF gap year people. The 6 weeks goes by so quickly. I know it might seem like it doesn't, but it really does. It goes by so fast. And when we were on the last week, I was so sad and I didn't want to leave. Yeah, I love Japan so much. The people are so nice there and everything is so cool and different. So I would definitely recommend going to Japan if you're trying to decide where to go. Yeah. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Now I'm going to move on to the service learning portion. Okay, now I'll talk about service learning. So for me, I chose to go to Tanzania, which I think was my favorite part of this whole gap year. And I'll explain why and everything to expect again about service. So service learning is so much different than language, because in language you were staying in one place with your host family and you had a routine of everything to do for the whole 6 weeks, but in service learning it's always changing. So the first 2 weeks we stayed in Arusha, Tanzania, and we stayed in a place called TCDC where we learned just about the country. We had classes and then we did different activities during the day. And like the actual service work for that didn't really start until the 3rd week for me, but I know it's different for each country. Yeah, the 3rd week just kidding. The 3rd week we went on the safari, which was one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life, and I loved it so much. And during the safari we stayed in really nice hotels, and we stayed in like this tent hotel, which was so cool. And there's so much I can talk about again from Tanzania, but I have lots of other videos on that too. And the 4th week we went to stay at a school and we worked with kids. Like a lot of Tanzania was working with kids, which I actually love so much. So that was probably one of the reasons I liked Tanzania so much, and just service learning in general, because we worked with a lot of kids. And then the 5th and 6th week we went to Zanzibar, which is one of the prettiest places that I've ever been in the world, and we did a turtle conservation there and we worked with a recycling company. We also did get a lot of free time after we finished doing our actual service learning. Again, it's very different depending on where you go. Like the amount of things you can do is different for each country. For most of service learning, you can't really go anywhere by yourself. You have to be with your group, so you get to know your group very well and you're always with them. For me, it was only me and 4 other people. So yeah, we really did a lot of things together. During our free time, it was different each week. Like the first 2 weeks, we couldn't leave that TCDC campus place, so we had to stay there. And then the 3rd week on the safari, we definitely couldn't leave anywhere because it was just dangerous to go out since there were animals everywhere. And so we just stayed in our hotel rooms really. But during the day we went on safari, which was so cool. And then the 4th week, again, yeah, you can't really leave. So I'm not sure how it is for other countries, but for Tanzania, I know that it can be dangerous in some places, so they just didn't want you to leave your hotels or the places you were staying. So yeah. But then when we were in Zanzibar, since it's so nice and there's beaches and pools everywhere, we spent a lot of time at the pool or the beach. So you do different service projects with your group, and you have a leader or someone who's in charge who will travel with you for each place, and you have planned activities again. But yeah, you don't have as much freedom as you had in the language in service, but a lot of people loved service so much. I don't know, it's a very different experience. And Tanzania was completely different from everywhere else too. So different from Japan. The reason I chose to go to Tanzania, I just had always wanted to go to Africa, and when I saw that was the only option for the whole year, I really just wanted to go, and I'm so glad that I did. The people there again are so nice, and I have so many stories from Tanzania. Yeah, so you're basically just living with your group in these different places and doing service projects, and then you get free time, but it's not as much freedom as you had to just explore anywhere because you can't just leave. but it's still fun and I loved it. I think that was my favorite part of the year. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the internship. So for me, I chose to go to Bangkok, Thailand, and I actually got this shirt in Thailand, I think. So the internship module is when you're the most independent because you're living alone in an apartment or you're living with other people in an apartment, but you guys are still alone. When we were in Thailand, there was only one guy who would check up on us each week to see how we were doing in work and just life, I guess, and if we needed anything, we could always call him. But there wasn't someone who was always with us, so you had to cook for yourself and clean and buy your own groceries, and it was just learning how to be independent. And then you also had to go to work, but luckily me and one other person who was with me, we had the same job, so we could always go to work together, and our apartment was about 30 or 40 minutes away from the work building. So we took the train together, and again, that was so hard learning how to take a new train system, but I figured it out. My actual job that I had, so when you apply for EF Gap Year and you're applying for the internship, you have to have an interview with the person, with the leader or whatever for the internship you want. And I put down that I really liked video editing and just things with that, and I like teaching, so they gave me a job where I would work in an office and create videos or something, and just something to do with that. What I actually did was I just kind of fixed everything with their YouTube channel, made sure their videos were good, and I sometimes made school homework plans or something. The whole job was really me at an office, I guess, but in Thailand it's really laid back, so it wasn't very hard. The job was from about 9 to 5, so it was a lot of time, but it's like, I guess it's like a regular job, and after that you got free time again. But also it was just different because I was always so tired after going to work, so during the week mostly we didn't do that much, we just kind of ate. I feel like the internship was the most lonely that I was because I just really had to do everything on my own, and I didn't really see the people I was with in Thailand that much during the week other than being at work. But then on the weekends it was more fun because we got to do whatever. And we planned a trip to go to this island for a weekend, which was fun, and we did a lot of karaoke. It was kind of like Japan, but it was also different, and it was so hot in Thailand. It was so hot. It was like 100 degrees every day, and I don't really do heat that well. It was a little difficult, so I mean, I did like the internship module. It was just, I feel like I liked other places better, but I don't know. It just depends where you go, because I know other places are much different than Thailand. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying. Yes, I put on a sweatshirt. I got a little chilly. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the tours. There were 3 different tours. The first tour we had was a tour of Europe, and we went to these cities / countries. That's right after orientation when we had just met everybody. So on that tour I didn't I didn't really talk to anybody on the Europe tour except for a few people. The team, Kayana, if you're watching this, then you know what I mean. That was fun. We took a tour of each city, and we went to the touristy spots. There were planned activities that you had to go to, but then after that you had free time, which was mostly every night, so you could do whatever you wanted. It's just a week in Europe, so it's fun. You can do whatever you want there. And yeah, every place we went we stayed in hostels. Well, you had either 1 roommate, 3 roommates, or 5. It changed depending on the city we went to and the hostel we were at. But yeah, each place we went in Europe we stayed in hostels. You have to carry around your suitcase everywhere you go, so try and pack as little as you can because it is a lot having to carry around everything everywhere. Okay, after your service learning, you flew back home for a month for your winter break, and then we all met in the LA airport, in January. I forget the exact date, but it was sometime in January. We all flew to Australia, which was such a long flight, but it was worth it because I loved Australia, and we had a tour of Australia and New Zealand, and that was about 2 weeks, and it was similar to Europe. There's just different tours of each city. Oh, here's a list of the cities for Australia. And then here's a list of cities for New Zealand. And again, you just have to go to the planned activities they plan for you, and then you have so much free time to do whatever you want. New Zealand is one of the most beautiful places. Actually, I think it is the most beautiful, and it's my favorite place in the world. Yeah, it's just very similar to Europe, just longer and different countries. Oh, I forgot to say that the Europe tour and the Australia tour had 2 different tour guides. Okay, and then after the Australia and New Zealand tour, we went to our internships, which I just talked about, and so then right after internship, we flew back to London to go to the Ashridge House, where we all met up again for the Leadership Academy, and that's where a lot of guest speakers came to talk to us, and we had to go to these activities that were basically all day, but they taught you about your strengths and weaknesses, and it was just learning how to be a leader. At night, we just hung out all together in our rooms, and you couldn't really leave, but the Ashridge House is so pretty. It's like a castle, so you can just go exploring around there if you want. And then right after leadership, we had our final tour, which was Ireland and Scotland. And in Ireland and Scotland, the tour guide was the same tour guide from Europe, so he was back and we were all together for that again. These are the cities we went to in Ireland. There weren't that many. And then here's Scotland. I actually did not go to Scotland because I had to go back to the Ashridge House early while everyone else went to Scotland because I lost my passport and there were some issues, so I just had to go back early. And then after this final tour, everybody came back to Ashridge, and we had 2 last days, I think. And the last day we had a final party, which was so sad but also so fun. And then we all said goodbye, and that was very sad. And that was the end of the gap year. Okay, so that was an overview of the whole program. So quickly, I'll put every single place I went in order here to the bottom. So hopefully that helped, and now I'm going to answer all the questions that I've gotten on Instagram in this next part. Okay, so the first question is, can you talk about the cost and if you got any scholarships or how you could afford it? So the cost can range from $34,000 to $37,000, and I actually knew somebody who worked at EF, so I got 10% off of the trip, but my parents did help me pay for it. And I know there are scholarships and you have to write an essay for it, but I think if you really do want to know more about the cost and how you can pay for it, you should contact EF, because I can only tell you so much. So talk to the people at EF if you have questions about the cost and how you can pay for it. What is included in the cost is the airfare, the transportation, the accommodations, activities, and a majority of the meals. So like I talked about with the internship, you have to pay for those meals and food by yourself, but mostly everywhere else the meals are already paid for you by the whole cost. What wasn't included in the cost of the program, so basically just your spending money and some of the meals aren't included. When did you start the application process? So I don't even remember because it was so long ago, but I think it was around February. I looked on the website to try and see when the application due date is, and I guess it's a rolling admission, so you can really apply anytime before September. But I think you should apply as early as you can when you decide you want to go on EF Gap Year. I got a lot of questions on packing, and I definitely would have had questions about that too. So they were what to pack clothes-wise for service projects and language learning, what clothes to bring and not to bring, what to pack so you don't forget anything, and how to dress correctly. I only packed 2 weeks worth of clothes, and you can always buy something if you forget anything, because you definitely will, and I forgot a lot of things, or I lost a lot of things, so you'll probably have to buy new things. Having too many clothes can be a problem. it can overfill your suitcase, and carrying around all your stuff can get hard to do, so try and pack as little as you can. The question specifically for service project and language learning. Language learning is just clothes that would go well with the weather. Like for Japan, it was about 70 degrees. I just packed my normal clothes and I was fine. And for service learning, it depends where you go. Most places are probably hot, so bring bathing suits and bring like t-shirts and shorts to do your actual service work in, but then bring relaxing clothes. Really depends on the country you go to. Also, if you're going to temples, you need to wear specific clothes that cover your body or they won't let you in. So yeah, I probably will make another video about just packing if you want me to. So were you nervous going alone, not knowing anyone? Did you know anyone before going? And how did you cope with anxiety about the gap year and meeting everyone? So I did not know anybody before I went, and yes, of course, I was so nervous before going. Leading up to the trip, like weeks before, I kept thinking, I can't do this, I don't want to go, I'm too scared. But I went and I didn't have a choice. And it was the best year of my life, and I know it can seem scary at first, and even when you first arrive, it's probably going to be scary because you're with complete strangers in a new country and you're going to travel the world together, which is just overwhelming. But you can FaceTime your family and friends at home. And try not to at first because you want to talk to people and get to know everybody, but also once you go into your different modules, I feel like that's when it got easier to meet people, because when you're on the tour and an orientation, there's just everybody there and there's so much to do and you can just go with whoever you want. But when you're in the different modules, you get to know the people who are at your country. I started feeling like less anxious, I guess, once I got to Japan, and ever since then everything just got easier. So once you start meeting and talking to more people, it will get easier. I was just talking to my friend Kiana from the gap year, and we were saying how it's so crazy to think about the first time we all met versus how it is now, because we've all gotten really close over the year, and we just had a gap year reunion call on Zoom, and I miss them all so much. But yeah, it does get better, even if it's hard at first. Just don't give up. It's normal to be nervous, and I definitely was. I was nervous before I went to Japan and before I went to Tanzania, but then the second semester of the gap year, I wasn't nervous at all because I was excited to go back and see everybody. One of the questions was, do you usually see people in countries that you have already been with? And if that's asking if you see the same people in each country, it depends on what country they chose. So yes and no. If they chose the same countries as you, then you will see them. I know one girl I saw 2 times because she chose the same language and internship as me, but in every other place it was always different people. But then when you're on the tours, you'll all be together again, so you will see everybody and you'll know everyone because they're all from EF. Would you recommend certain places to go or not to go? I mean, I think anywhere would be great, but I would definitely recommend my countries because I loved them, but I know everybody else loved their country, so it really depends what you want and what kind of experience you want and where you're comfortable going. And would you recommend the whole gap year over the gap semester? So there is also a gap semester, which is only from September to January, I think, and you don't go to Australia and New Zealand. Plus, you only can choose 2 modules out of the 3, and I couldn't imagine not experiencing everything. I'm so glad I did the whole year, and I know some semester people said they wish they did the full year, so I would recommend the whole year over the gap semester. How much were you able to go out and do stuff in free time? So I talked about this before, but there is so much free time and you can do whatever you want in it, so take advantage of that and live your best life and just have so much fun and do everything you can and take every opportunity that they give you. Do you usually stay in hostels? I talked about this, so it's different for every place you go. You stay in hostels, hotels, apartments, host families. It depends where you go. How are the flights? Long. I mean, some flights were longer than others. I took a few 17-hour flights and it wasn't the best. I got just overwhelmed being stuck in a plane for so long, but try and go to sleep and watch a lot of movies. Also, sometimes you might end up going on a flight by yourself, which might seem scary, and the first time I had to do that was going from Japan to Tanzania because nobody else from Japan was going to Tanzania, and I was so scared that I was gonna get lost or mess something up, but I did it, and it gets easier. Going into airports gets so easy because you go into so many over the year. But yeah, just try and find a way to entertain yourself because it can get boring on long flights. How was the Wi-Fi? The Wi-Fi was actually pretty good everywhere we went. The only place it was not the best was Tanzania. For the first 2 weeks, you had to go to a specific part of the campus that we were at to get Wi-Fi. I mean, I didn't really mind because I didn't want to be on my phone the whole time, and you experience so much more when you're not on it. But yeah, if you're worried about Wi-Fi for like contacting your family and friends, then there will always be Wi-Fi somewhere, so don't worry, you'll be able to call them if you need to. I got a question about the drinking and how strict they were about that, so so we did do a lot of drinking. I mean, everywhere you go, you're pretty much legal everywhere, so you can just have so much fun, but they are pretty strict about that. They want you to drink responsibly, of course, but I mean, that didn't always happen. So try and not go too crazy and you'll be fine. And the last question is, what advice do you have, or is there anything you do differently? So just advice in general, I guess. Be ready for the unexpected because there will be so many things that you don't expect and a lot of challenges that you have to face, and be ready to get comfortable with things always changing. Like, one thing that happened that I'm so sad about is we didn't get to go to the Great Barrier Reef in Australia because of the weather, and no one can predict that, so just get ready for a lot of different things to happen. And anything I do differently, I loved everything about the gap year, but there are some things I could have done differently to make it even better, I guess. Like I said, with school, I should have tried harder and gone to more of my classes, and with the internship, I should have done more things during the free time because we got so much free time, but usually during the weeks I didn't do that much, so if I could do that again, I would try and get more things done. I don't know, just push yourself to do things you aren't comfortable with. I mean, to get out of your comfort zone. I loved it so much, and you will have the best time if you go on this program. Okay, so if you made it to the end, then thank you for watching, and I hope I answered all your questions. But if you have any more, which I'm sure people will have, then comment them down below, or you can DM me on Instagram and I'd be happy to answer them. I can make more videos on different topics if you want me to. And you can watch some of my other videos about EF Gap Year. I have just some vlogs from my time there, and I have some story times. So yeah, I hope this helped, and subscribe if you want to see more of my videos because I'll post a lot more. I hope everybody has a good day, so thank you for watching.
You can dance, you can fly. As the